The rain was pouring intensely that night. When Ava heard a loud knock on her door, she rested her book right next to her cup of tea on the coffee table and got up from her rocking chair. Ava hurriedly put on her robe as the knock got louder and more aggressive. She then rushed to her front door and peeped into the spy hole. At that moment, tears fell from her eyes as her hands trembled to get the door open. "Rake, what are you doing here?" Ava softly said, yet there was anger in her tone. She stood at the open door, staring at a man that had left her broken for so many years. And finally, when she came to accept the fact that he was never coming back, here he is, standing in front of her house soaking wet in the rain. "I need your help. Your house will be the last place that they will ever think about looking for me at. So please help me," Rake said with his hand pressed against his side. "Who is they?" "What have you gotten yourself into, Rake?" Ava worriedly asked. But when she looked at his side, and her eyes caught a red liquid dripping on the ground, Ava decided to keep the questions for later. "Come in," she softly said, as she folded her arms and stepped to the side. Rake gave her a soft smile before walking into the house. Ava then took a deep breath and shut the door. "Wow, this place still looks the same," Rake mumbled as he stared around the living room. "You don't get to do that," Ava coldly said with wet eyes. Rake did not reply as he stared at Ava's angry expression, since he knew that whatever he said would only make the matter worse. "Is that a bullet wound?" Ava asked out of concern as she stared at Rake's side. "It is just a wound. I will be fine," Rake said. Ava frowned at Rake's remark. She could not believe how clueless and heartless he could be. "That is good then, because not everyone is fine after badly getting wounded," Ava stated. "Ava, listen. I am," Rake tried to say, but his words got cut short. "No. You listen here. You don't get to walk back into my life after years have passed and pretend as if nothing had happened between us. I understand that. But there is so much that you don't know." Ava was in a state of rage at this point. She did not want to pretend as though she was fine and happy in the way she had been doing with her friends and family over the years. All Ava wanted to do was yell out all the rage and hurt she felt inside her heart. Haha, what could that be then? "Was it so important for you to leave me on the day of our engagement party and vanish without a trace?" Ava screamed. "Yes, it was," Rake said as he stared at the ring on Ava's finger. The living room was quiet for a while, and only the melody of the rushing rain could get heard throughout the house. "I will get the first aid kit," Ava mumbled while fighting back her tears. Without looking back, she walked out of the living room and headed upstairs to her room. "I am sorry, Ava, but my life is too dangerous for you to be a part of. I was naive back then to think I could keep you with all the danger surrounding my life. It is best that you hate me then to get hurt because of me," Rake mumbled as he removed the bloody shirt from his body. Ava angrily opened her drawer and took out the first aid kit. She turned around to leave the room, but then dropped to her knees and bitterly sobbed. "How can he still have this much effect on me? It has been so many years already. I should be over him by now. But why isn't it so?" After some minutes had passed, Rake got worried that Ava was not down with the kit yet. Therefore, he went upstairs to check on her. When Rake arrived at Ava's room door and overheard her soft cry, he rested his hand against the wooden frame and listened as his heart hurt. "Ava, are you okay?" Rake called when he could not hear her sobbing anymore. "No, I am not," Ava harshly said. "Can I come in?" "If you want to do so." Rake pushed the door open and entered the room. At that moment, he saw Ava on the floor with her head bent against her knee. With his eyes fixed on her, Rake slowly walked over to Ava and squatted in front of her. "I am sorry. I know saying this does not make up for what I did to you, or the pain I have caused, but I really am sorry, Rake softly said. Then, why did you leave if you knew that it was going to hurt me? Ava asked as she lifted her head and gazed at him. I can't say. Rake honestly answered while staring deep into her eyes. Ava knew that he wasn't lying to her, and that caused her to be more curious about the reason he left her. Did you even love me? Ava asked with concern in her eyes. I am bleeding. I don't think this is the right time for childish questions, Rake said. He grabbed the first aid kit and headed into the bathroom, leaving Ava speechless and more hurt. A minute later, after Rake had patched up his wound and bandaged it, he came out of the bathroom. Here, your pillow and comforter. You can sleep on the couch for tonight. Then I want you out of my house by tomorrow morning. Ava coldly said. Are you being serious right now? Rake asked out of shock. Yes, I am. Fine. Rake took the pillow and comforter from Ava's hands. He then walked out of the room and shut the door behind him. It is okay. Av, you have been doing great without him, and you don't need him now, Ava mumbled to herself. Yet she was not confident about her words. The moment Rake threw the stuff on the sofa, his phone started ringing in his trousers pocket. Hello, boss? Rake said after he answered the call. Did you get the target? A rough and cold manly voice harshly flowed into Rake's ears. No, boss. The mission was a bust. Someone tipped off the target, and he got prepared for my attack. I was lucky to get out of there with only a bullet wound. Excuses. I need the job done tomorrow, or else a bullet wound will be the last thing you have to worry about. Yes, boss. After the call ended, Rake tossed his phone onto the couch. He then sat down and covered his face with both his hands. By tomorrow, I will be gone, and you won't have to see or experience the other side of my double life. Rake mumbled out of frustration as he relaxed on the couch. Ava opened her eyes to the bright morning light from the rising sun. She tossed on the bed a bit. Then Rake came to her mind, so she raced to the living room. The thought that had kept her up for half of the night had come true. He is gone, she mumbled as her eyes pitifully stared at the comforter folded nicely on the couch and the pillow beside it. Ave was about to head back upstairs and sob for a few minutes when a note on the table caught her attention. I made you breakfast as a way of saying thank you. I am sorry for every pain that I have caused you. I also hope you can forget about me and move on with your life and find someone better who will be a better partner and man than I ever was to you. The note said. Ava allowed her tears to escape her eyes as she let the paper slip from her hand. You fool. Don't you know that there is no other man for me except you? I have waited for years for you to come back and explain why you left me and my heart broken. Yet just like that, you disappear without a trace, and I am left picking myself up and putting my heart back together. You are so cruel, Rake, Ava angrily said, as she fell to the carpet on both her knees and wept bitterly. It took a while for Ava to get herself out of the depressing state she was in and put her emotions under control. Well, life goes on without you, and I have to deal with that fact. Now to get ready for work, Ava mumbled. She gathered all her strength and dragged herself up the stairs. When Ava entered her room, she went directly into the bathroom. Ava then looked in the mirror, and her eyes looked kind of puffy because of all the crying she did. There were black circles around her eyes and her face seemed pale since she spent most of last night overthinking things that happened between her and Rake. After taking a warm shower, Ava still did not feel like herself. She headed back into her room, and a few minutes later, Ava came back down dressed up in her business attire for her job as the manager for finance at a billion-dollar company. She went into the kitchen and saw her favorite food that she loves for breakfast on the counter. Ava stared at the blueberry pancakes on the plate, then walked past it to make herself some dark coffee. We're not going to see each other again, so I don't need another memory of you stuck in my brain, she thought, as she drank her coffee while staring at the mouth-watering pancakes. At last, when Ava could not take the temptation anymore, she set down her mug and approached the counter, took the plate, then tossed the pancakes into the trash. That is better, she mumbled, feeling a bit regretful. At 9 on the hour, Ava was out of her house and seated in a cab. Her eyes focused on the vehicle's windshield as she tried her best to admire the beauty of the morning. But everything seemed to be black and white. The moment Ava turned her gaze away from the window and relaxed against the car's seat, her phone began to buzz. "Jem, what is up?" Ava calmly asked. "Oh, who? You only call me by my name when you are upset. What happened? You know that you can tell your best friend anything, right?" Jem's concerned voice flowed from the phone speaker. "Rake came home last night." "What? Why? It is all confusing." "Rake wouldn't tell me much, and he left early this morning. I am so confused and upset. I thought that I was over him, and now all I want is for him not to leave me again. But he already did. So what am I going to do?" Ava's eyes had got watery again, and she could not stop her tears from falling. "Listen here, babe. You are one of the bravest women I know. You've been through this before, and you came out as a better and stronger person. You can do it again." Jem's soft voice was like comfort to Ava's soul. She gently smiled as the black and white color disappeared, and she could see everything in their rightful color. "You know what?" Jem's exciting tone flowed into Ava's ear. "What?" Ava asked out of curiosity. "We are going out later for karaoke night. What do you think?" "It is a date, then." It took a few more minutes after Ava and Jem's phone conversation ended for Ava to arrive at her worksite. The company looked the same as she walked into the enormous glass building. She went into her department, and the first thing she did was grab a folder from her desk. "Is that the report?" one of her work colleagues asked. "Yeah, it is," Ava replied, before smiling a bit. She was about to walk out of the finance department when she bumped into someone else. "Hey, AV, so you finally finished it?" another colleague asked. "Yeah, I did," Ava said with a friendly smile. "That is good." "Okay, good luck then." "Thanks." After her brief conversation with her colleague, Ava rushed to the elevator and hurried in. She has been working on her financial report for days now, and today was her deadline to get it to her boss. So she did not want to get it to her boss late. The elevator made a few stops, and people got off until Ava was the only one in it. Then the elevator finally stopped on the 11th floor. She stepped out and walked toward the CEO's company office door. When Ava got there, she knocked. But at that moment, she heard a gunshot. In fear, Ava hurriedly opened the door. She rushed in and noticed that a gun pointed directly at her, and the person holding the gun was her ex-fiancé. The room became silent as they both stared confusedly at each other without saying a word for a few seconds. "Rake?" Ava asked out of shock when she finally accepted that this was reality and that her ex-lover had just murdered her boss. "What are you doing here, Ava?" Rake asked as he lowered his gun. "You killed my boss." "Are you an assassin?" Ava asked. She was still in a state of turmoil over everything, and the sight and scent of blood were not helping her think straight. "You work here?" Rake asked. He put his gun back in the black bag on the floor, then stood up and stared at Ava's upset face. "Is that all you can say? How about explaining why you have a gun and the reason you killed my boss?" Ava screamed. "Okay. This is not the time and place for such a conversation. You don't know the enormous problem you have created for being here. I tried so hard to keep you out of this mess. I guess fate had to mess up everything," Rake angrily said. Ava folded her hand into a fist in rage as she gazed into Rake's restless eyes. She felt furious, and yet she was more worried about him. "We've got to get out of here." "You ruined my mission," Rake said. "What did I do?" "You are the one shooting and killing people with no explanation," Ava yelled. Rake did not answer as he picked up his bag from on the floor. He then held Ava's hand and led her out of the office. "What are you doing?" she mumbled. "Getting the both of us out of this death trap." "Now keep quiet and follow my lead," Rake whispered back. When they got onto the elevator, Ava asked no further questions as she and Rake stood in silence. The elevator reached the first floor, and they both got out. Rake was still holding on to Ava's hand as he led her outside the building. The moment they got into the taxi, Ava looked back and saw a bunch of black cars stopping in front of the company. "Who are they?" Ava cried in fear as she stared at the men in black suits rushing into the building. "Those are bad people, and that is all you need to know," Rake said. He hurriedly took out his phone and dialed a number while Ava confusedly gazed in his face, waiting on him to give a sensible answer. "Hey, Jax. I need the chopper ready. I am on my way," Rake said. "Good for you, boss. You got the job done." A male voice came out of the phone speaker. "Not really. What do you mean?" "It is a mess. I will explain later." "Okay, boss." The moment Rake dropped the call, a bullet flew next to the back door and banged into the side mirror of the taxi. Shit! They have looked through the CCTV cameras," Rake shouted. "Excuse me, sir." "What have you gotten me into?" the driver asked. "A pretty dangerous situation. So you either drive or we all die," Rake screamed. "Fair enough. You should tip me well after this." "Sure. Now, drive." The driver stepped on the accelerator, and the race took off with a bunch of black cars chasing after a taxi. In the street of Aura City, Rake, "What the freaking hell is going on?" Ava yelled in fear. "Keep your head down," Rake shouted. "Don't tell me what to do." "Ava, this is not the time to act unreasonably. We are in a freaking death and life situation." Ava stubbornly kept her head up to annoy Rake, but then a bullet landed on the trunk, and he instantly used his body as a shield to protect her. "Please stay down. You are the only good thing in my life, and I can't lose you. I promise to tell you everything when we are safe," Rake pleaded. Ava kept her head bent, without saying a word as tears rolled down her eyes and dropped onto the car floor. "Why does it have to take us dying for you to show me you care?" Ava whispered as the salty taste from her tears settled on her tongue. The driver handled the steering like a roller coaster. He drove the taxi on all 4 lanes of the road as he tried to shake the black cars off his tail. Once they reached the side of the street that did not seem occupied with many cars, Rake took out his gun and drew the left back door window glass down. He then put the upper part of his body out the window and opened fire. Rake's shots were accurate. Each time he released the gun's trigger, the bullet precisely hit where he was aiming at, and with his perfect aims, the black limousines were exploding up like time bombs. Some vehicles were bumping into each other, causing them to stop, while the others kept up the chase. Rake hurriedly drew back in the car when he saw a bullet flying towards him. It smashed into the second side mirror, and now there were 2 mirrors down, leaving the driver with only the V mirror for vision. "You got to pay for the repair of my car too," the driver shouted. "Yeah, I know. Now keep driving," Rake screamed. A few minutes through the shooting, a shot hit the back windshield, breaking the glass into pieces. In that instant, Rake rushed over Ava's body as the bullet flew over their heads and hit the front windshield, then passed through it. "Are you okay?" Rake mumbled as Ava's body trembled under him. She tried to speak, but the words got stuck in her throat. Ava then nodded her head. But that is all she could do. The chase lasted for a while. But in the end, only the half-damaged taxi was still moving since Rake had fired at the remaining vehicles, setting them up in flames. "You can sit up now," he said. Ava lifted her head as her body trembled in fear. She then gazed at him with watery eyes while tears rolled uncontrollably down her face. Before Rake could say a word, Ava rushed into his arms and wept. "It is okay," he softly said as he gently patted her head. Ava's hands wrapped around his body. She then felt a wet liquid on her skin, so she let go of Rake and stared at the spot. "You are bleeding," Ava cried. "As for the bullet wound, I will be fine. But everything else is a mess. The boss will not be happy about this," Rake mumbled. Ava steadied her breath and tried to calm the panic she felt. Yet she could no longer control her hands as they shook in an odd trembling rhythm. "Ava," Rake called. Even though it was the 5th time he had said her name, she was not responding. He could see the fear in her expression as she ushered her dark eyes shut, then opened it. "I want to go home," Ava mumbled as tears rolled down her face. "You can't," Rake said. She then turned her head and doubtfully gazed at him as though he was talking nonsense. "Why is that?" Ava harshly asked. "Because you stand the risk of getting you and everyone you love killed," Rake casually replied. For a while, Ava didn't know how to respond to his statement or how to feel about what he had said. So she just gazed at him with annoyance in her eyes. "I know it is hard to accept, but your old life is over. Your boss son will not take his father's death lightly. In this game, an eye for an eye, and if I am right after he has seen the footage, you will be the eye he wants for payment for my deed," Rake explained, hoping that Ava would understand. "Why would he want to kill me? You are the one who killed his freaking dad." Ava screamed out of confusion. The driver turned his head around and gazed at them with a shocked expression. "Look where you are driving. You are leaving your lane," Ava yelled. "Hold on. You did not tell me that you were a murderer. What kind of bullcrap have you gotten me into?" the driver asked. "Are you not already in shit? I can tell from your driving skills that you are a getaway driver. Plus, how accurately you dodged those bullets prove that you are in pretty messed up stuff yourself," Rake stated. The driver laughed in a deep voice after hearing what Rake had said before his expression became cunning. "I guess I have gotten caught. However, now that you know my other job and for the risk that you have put me through, you have to pay me more," the driver slyly stated. "Cash is not a problem. Just get us to the plain field next to the railroad, and you will get your payment," Rake replied. "I like your style. Anyone that is free with paper is my kind of guy. I am Big D. You can call me Rake." It dumbfounded Ava at how these two men casually discussed things, like what had just happened, meant nothing to them. "I can't believe that I am sitting in the midst of two criminals." "You know what? Stop the car," Ava screamed. Big D ignored what she had said and kept driving since Rake had not reacted or responded to Ava's statement. "Great. I will get the door for myself then," Ava mumbled. She reached for the door lock, but Rake pulled her back and sealed her wrist in his grips. "What the hell do you think you are doing? We are in moving traffic. Do you want to hurt yourself?" Rake screamed. "Why are you scolding me? You are the one killing people, getting us into a criminal car and making me a target of something that I don't even know about and should not be involved in. In the first place, you have no right to take such a tone with me," Ava yelled back. Big D kept his eyes ahead of him, but he focused his ears on everything that was happening in the back. "I am sorry. You are right, and I shouldn't have screamed at you," Rake softly said as he let go of her wrist. "I just want to go home." Why won't you let me? Ava cried. Rake knew the answer to that question. Yet he kept those words to himself since he did not want to start something that he would not finish. How can I tell you that my love for you is the toxicity that has put you on a death hunt? Rami saw you with me. And by now, he knows that we know each other, which will lead him to dig behind our relationship. Once he finds out the truth, he is coming for you. An eye for an eye. I've killed someone he loves, and he will want to kill someone. Ava sat there, staring at him, wondering in his thoughts, and she patiently waited for him to give her an answer. Jem and I have a karaoke date to attend together. So if you can't give me serious information for me to believe, I am getting out of this car, and this time, you won't get the chance to stop me. Ava said after she had waited for 10 minutes and Rake said nothing. Is the fact that you and those that you love are going to die not serious information? Rake asked. Number, it is not enough for me to just believe in you and leave my entire life behind to run away with you. You killed his father, not me, so I don't see any sense in him coming after me. Fine. Rake knew how stubborn Ava could get if her mind got made up. So he reached into his black bag, and before she could get the chance to take action, he had slapped a handcuff on both of her wrists. What the hell are you doing, Rake? This is kidnapping. You can't just force me to go with you against my will. Ava screamed with tears in her eyes. No, I call this keeping you safe. You will understand in a while. Please bear with me, Rake said, as he gently wet the tears that rolled out of Ava's eyes. Sometime later, Big D stepped on the brake, then turned around to them, and with a bright smile on his face. Well, we have arrived, he said. Ava stared out the window and gazed at the chopper not far away from them. And somehow, she knew that her life was never going back to the way it used to be. Rake stepped down from the vehicle. Then he turned around and helped Ava out of the car. Once her feet were stable on the green grass, she lightly shook her arms to signal him to let go of her. Rake got the signal, and his fingers slowly slip of Ava's arm as he stared at her with concern in his eyes. Hey, Jax. Rake called out as a man with blonde hair approached them. Hello, boss, Jax replied. He then turned his head and gazed at Ava, who didn't pay him much attention since she was mad at Rake. He then looked at Rake, whose expression seemed aloof. Who is this pretty thing? Jax said. She is just a chick that was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Rake replied with coldness in his tone. Are you going to take her to the big boss? Number he cannot know about her. I will handle her myself. It is your prey. So you call the shots on it. Ava didn't know what to think or which words to use in such a situation. The entire conversation between Rake and Jax disgusted her, and what troubled her more is how Rake's attitude had instantly changed. She knew that the man standing before her was not the man that she had loved and longed for all those years. What is going on, Rake? Ava asked. Rake ignored Ava's question, as she stared into his brown eyes that had suddenly come cold towards her. Who is she calling Rake? Jax asked out of confusion. How should I know? Rake replied with a stiff expression. Ava did not want to believe what her ears had heard. Her heart pounded faster in her chest as the truth settled in her head. She wished what Rake had said was nothing but a lie. Yet she knew that she would only be lying to herself if she believed it. Jax, can you handle this driver? I have some money for him. Wire whatever amount he requests for. Rake stated. Sure thing, boss. Jax replied. Rake then grabbed Ava by the arm and pulled her away from Big D and Jax. Then took her a few distances before stopping. Let go of me, Ava shouted. Rake turned his head and saw that Jax and Big D were questionably staring at both of them. He then turned his focus back to Ava, and she could see that Rake was back to his old self again. He had an affectionate expression on his face, and the way he gazed at her reminded her of their past love life. However, when Ava gazed at the concern in his eyes, she found it hard to trust his current personality, because so much had happened in less than 24 hours that had her doubting everything she knew about Rake. The moment we get into that chopper, you don't know me. We don't have a long-term history, and you never loved me. Nor did I ever love you, Rake said. Haha. Ava laughed, and yet she was sharing tears. She felt cold, and her body was trembling without her approval as those warm liquids dripped out of her eyes and down her face. In that instant, she wanted to cry and get rid of the suffocating feeling in her chest. Ava, Rake softly said. He reached out for her hand, but Ava pulled her hand away from him as she stared into his eyes with deep anger in her eyes. Long history together? How can I have a long history with someone that I never really know? I don't even know your actual name. Oh, and never loved you, of course. I never loved you because I was in love with a man that never existed. Don't stress about me acting like we are close because I have never felt so far away from you then. I do now, Ava softly said. Although she had spoken all those words, she could not bring herself to feel that way. Ava tried to dry the tears off her face, but she couldn't since she still had the handcuff on her wrist. That is good then. You can hate me all you want, Rake whispered as he gently wiped her face with his shirt sleeve. Sir, I am done settling the driver, and he has left. It is time for us to go. Ava and Rake heard Jax's voice a few distances away from them. And in that instant, Rake quickly pulled his hand away from her face. Let's go, Rake said. Ava angrily walked past Rake without glancing at him. He then followed her to where Jax was awaiting them. A minute later, they were all seated in the chopper. The pilot then lifted the helicopter off the ground. Once Rake had given him the go-ahead to do so, Rake kept gazing at where Ava sat, but she kept her focus on the window as she admired the clouds. Are you sure that she is just a stranger to you, boss? Jax asked after noticing how intensely Rake was looking at Ava. Yes, Rake mumbled. That is good then. You know Lady Bella doesn't like any competition, and she becomes a pretty devil when she gets upset. Plus, your dad and her dad seemed pretty hooked on getting both of you married. I know that. I don't need a reminder. I am just saying. The fact that you are taking a female back home is not going to look good to Lady Belle. And your father won't be happy either about it, so keep your eyes on your little stranger before she gets entangled in a web that she can't get out of. I have it under control. Rake glanced at Ava, and in that instant she looked his way. The moment their eyes met, Rake felt a chill coursing through his spine. Can I really keep you safe from all the danger ahead of us? He thought, as Ava faintly smiled at him before turning her head back to the window. The chopper landed on an enormous field, and Jax was the first to get out, leaving Ava and Rake alone. Ava gazed at Rake, but the soulless expression on his face made her quickly look the other way. Is your ass stuck to the chair or something? Rake coldly stated. What? Ava harshly asked with a shocked expression on her face. She angrily gazed at Rake. However, from the coldness in his eyes, she knew that he wasn't the Rake she loves, and it tore her heart apart. But she kept silent instead of crying. You are not the man I hope to have spent eternity with, and love even in death. I feel so cheated for loving you, Ava pitifully said. If you want to survive this side of my life, you better keep those cheesy statements to yourself. Rake stated. Haha. Cheesy, you are really not Rake. Ava angrily wiped her face, then stood up from her seat and got out of the chopper without looking at Rake. Jax saw Ava walking towards him, and her puffy eyes caught his attention. He then questionably stared at his boss, who was at the helicopter's door. Let's go, Rake commanded when he met with Ava and Jax. Ava started walking a bit faster ahead of both men. She didn't want to act childish, and yet, she couldn't stand being next to Rake. "How's your wound?" Jax asked. "It is just a scratch. After patching it up on the chopper, it doesn't hurt that much anymore," Rake stated. Jax slightly nodded at his boss. Then his eyes caught a glance of Ava's back. "What is wrong with her?" Jax asked. "I am not her." "How should I know?" Rake arrogantly replied. "Boss, I am not convinced that she is just a stranger to you, and others may also catch on to it soon. So whatever is going on between you two, you gotta fix it if you want your plans for her to go smoothly. There is nothing to fix, since she is a nobody to me." "If you say so, boss." Ava sniffed a bit after overhearing Rake and Jax's conversations. She then held her breath for a minute before exhaling to relieve the stress that was squeezing her heart. "Do you know where you are going?" Jax called out a few minutes later. Ava turned around and noticed that there were 2 roads, and she was heading the wrong way. She hesitated for a minute before walking over to Rake and Jax. "Stay by us, okay?" Jax said. "Fine," Ava mumbled. Rake did not speak, and Ava was somewhat glad that he didn't, because most of the things that Rake had said so far were ripping her apart. As they continued their walk, all Ava could see was gigantic trees and bushes. And a few miles into their journey, she felt exhausted and wanted to take a break. Ava pitifully gazed at Rake to signal to him that she was tired. But all she got was a cold stare from him. "Boss, I think we should stop and give her a chance to rest a bit. She looked like she is about to collapse," Jax said. "Keep walking," Rake commanded. Ava suddenly stopped walking and stubbornly sat on the ground. With mad eyes, she gazed up at Jax and Rake, who had stopped and were now staring at her. "I need a break, and if you can't give me one, then I am just going to do it anyway," Ava stated. Rake looked out of patience, and Ava could tell by the intense way he stared at her. "Let's go," Rake coldly said. "What?" "We can't just leave her here, boss. We both know how dangerous these woods are. At least let's give her a few minutes to rest. Then we can set off," Jax pleaded. However, the rage he saw in Rake's expression made him understand that this situation was even more complicated than he thought it to be. "I am not repeating myself," Rake yelled. The force from his voice sent chills all over Ava's body. She had never heard so much dominance in Rake's tone before, and listening to it now had her scared. "He is not going to leave me alone. Right? He may be acting aloof towards me now, but he still cares about my safety." However, when Rake turned away and started walking, Ava felt the last faith she had in him vanished. "Come with us now. I don't know how you got to know my master, but in this territory he is known for being cold-blooded, so please don't test his patience and come with us," Jax softly said. Ava folded her arms and looked the other way. Underneath all the sadness crowding her heart, she felt an intense rage, and that rage was stopping her from listening to reasoning. "Jax!" Rake screamed. Ava briefly gazed at Rake's back a few distances away from where she sat, and her heart felt as though it was getting crushed by a heavy stone. "I am coming," Jax screamed. The moment Rake and Jax were nowhere in sight, that is when the terror of the woods started creeping into Ava's mind. She anxiously gazed around the area, and it was clear to her that acting stubborn wasn't a very wise decision. "They will come back to get me," Ava mumbled. She hugged herself tightly while struggling to get all the negative thoughts out of her head. But the situation she found herself in made Ava feel even more afraid. "Boss, we can't leave her there." She looked scared even though she pretended not to be. "Plus, her life can be considered over if we let her be alone in these woods," Jax said. "She is just a nobody." What is it to you if she dies? Rake heartlessly stated, Fine. I believe that there is nothing between you two. So please, let's go back for that Suborn lady. I don't think it would be fair to her if she dies in such a place. We both know what lurks among these trees. The dead silence in the atmosphere caused Ava's eyes to change direction every second. She wanted to get up and run, but then she was afraid that she might lose her way, and if Rake and Jax came back, they wouldn't be able to find her. Howl, the three cried, echoed a few distances away from where Ava was, and the moment she heard the sound, she jumped to her feet. Please don't be what I think you are, Ava cried with watery eyes. A minute later, she heard noises coming from a nearby bush. She gazed to where the sound came from, and her foot instantly felt stuck to the ground as her heart pounded violently in her chest. Ava stepped back slowly, as the three bloodthirsty wolves circled her, leaving only a little distance between them and her. Nice fellows. I am not tasty at all. You don't want a skinny woman like me, Ava calmly mumbled. However, she was freaking out inside, and with every step that the wolves took closer, Ava felt as though her heart was going to explode in her chest. Stay back, Ava commanded. Growl. Ava's bossy tone only made the wolves more alarmed and agitated as they closed in with their aggressive red eyes center on her. Oh, this is not good, Rake. Rake. I am sorry. I didn't mean to act stubborn. I don't feel ready to die. So please save me, Ava hastily screamed. At that instant, one of the wolves vigorously charged toward her. Ava couldn't breathe because of fear, and she immediately shut her eyes tightly. Bang! The gunshot sound didn't help Ava's panic attack either. But she was relieved when she opened her eyes and saw a bloody dead wolf on the ground and the other wolves running away. Are you okay? Jax asked as he put his gun away. I think so. Thank you for saving me, Ava mumbled to Jax with emptiness in her eyes while her body trembled from the fright. He saved you now, let's go, Rake rudely said. But Jax did not get to finish his statement when Ava suddenly fell unconscious to the ground. For a second, Rake looked like he was about to run to her side. But then he hesitated and stood still, allowing Jax to be the one to do so. Hey lady, wake up, Jax softly mumbled as he checked for a pulse. Rake folded his hand into a tight fist out of frustration as he watched Jax attend to Ava. A second later, he lightly lifted his foot to take a step towards them. But he stopped. She has got a stable pulse. I think she fainted because of shock. Jax looked up at his boss and said, Good. Throw her over your shoulder and let's go, Rake stated. He brought the gun that he has previously hidden behind him to his side and then put it back into his black bag. Why did you lie about who shot first? Jax asked as he picked up Ava. Because, Rake replied. Is that it? Yes. Now let her continue believing that you were the one who saved her. It is better that way. After Rake's statement, he took off, and Jax gently, and yet hurriedly threw Ava over his shoulder, before he raced after his boss. Whoever this girl is, she is not simple in your heart. No matter how hard you tried to hide it, I can see it in your eyes, Jax thought as he stared at Rake's back. A while later, Ava's eyelids slowly opened, then it shut, and finally, after a few minutes, she widely opened her eyes. Why is the ground so far away? Ava mumbled. You are awake, Jax softly asked. Ava slowly turned her attention to her left. And at that moment she and Rake's eyes met. He is not the one carrying me. Why am I still holding on to an empty frame when the you that I know is gone? Ava pitifully thought. Rake immediately looked the other way to avoid eye contact with her, since he could see the disappointment in her eyes, and he wanted to escape the pain that it caused him. Good. You are awake, Jax. Put her down, Rake harshly said. Jax hesitated for a moment, but the deadly gaze in his boss's eyes was all the warning he needed to follow instruction. A minute later, Ava was standing on her 2 feet. She coldly stared at Rake before softly smiling at Jax, and then her eyes caught a glance of what lay ahead of them. Oh, wow, where are we? What is this place? Ava screamed in excitement. Home. Rake mumbled with a bit of hate in his voice. The enormous city before them had Ava in a state of disbelief. She couldn't believe that such a magnificent place existed in the country she had lived in from birth, even though it was real and right before her very eyes. It is stunning, Ava whispered with admiration in her voice, and deadly. So if you meant what you said in the woods, then follow me closely and learn to abide by my instructions. Rake stated. Yes. I know. That is good then. Jax will not always be there to save you, and I have better things to do than to care for you. I said that I know. Jax kept silent, since he didn't want to get dragged into whatever was going on between Ava and Rake. The guys are here, Jax said. What guys? Ava mumbled. Then, the 10 Lamborghinis caught her attention, and she remained in shock even after the cars had stopped a few distances away from them. You know that I hate these crooks, so why would you tell them about my arrival? Rake harshly said. I didn't. I guess the boss sent them to carry you home. The security crew must have picked up our images from the cameras in the woods and informed the boss. The word camera sent chills down Ava's spine. And now, she was viewing the city in a new light, and it somehow didn't look like the paradise she thought it to be. There are cameras in the woods, Ava mumbled. Yep. Numerous and everywhere else too. That is how we keep intruders out of this island, Jax said with a smile. How do you stop them from coming in? Jax's mood quickly changed from friendly to emotionless, and his lip remained sealed together. Ava gazed at Jax, then at Rake, and when their eyes met, he could see that she was confused and scared. We put a bullet into their skull and then burn them or spill acid on their body so that there is nothing left of them to get found by anyone. Rake coldly said. Boss, you are scaring her, Jax whispered as he stared at the disgust in Ava's expression. What? She asked, and I gave her an honest answer. The fact that what Rake had said was the truth sent a sick feeling down Ava's throat. She tried to vomit, but there was nothing in her stomach since she only had coffee earlier that day. Welcome back, sir, a man in black said as he approached Rake and the others. Carter, what brought you here? Rake asked with a frown face. The big boss asked us to take you and your little friend back to the mansion. Ava stared at Rake and then Jax. She could tell that whoever this big boss was, he wasn't someone she wanted to meet, and the way how Carter coldly gazed at her made the two shiver a bit. She took a few steps closer towards Jax, then bent her head down to avoid any eye contact with Carter. At that moment, Rake grabbed her wrist and pulled her away from Jax and the others, then stopped walking when they were far enough. Hey! Ava cried as she struggled to free her hand from his. Listen carefully. The danger starts from this exact moment. Do not trust anyone except me, and don't follow any instructions except it is mine. Do you understand? Rake said. I heard you. Now let go of my hand. You are hurting me, and this handcuff is the worst. When are you going to remove it? Rake slowly released her hand. He then reached into his pocket and pulled out a tiny key, then unlocked the cuffs. There, now listen up. Jax is going to take you to my house. Do not leave your room or interact with anyone until I get home. Okay, Rake stated. Yeah, sure. Ava half-heartedly replied. Good. Let's get back. Ava pouted at Rake because she felt annoyed. And the fact that she couldn't express her frustration was bugging her. So bossy. Ava mumbled beneath her breath as she followed Rake back. Are you guys really to leave? Carter asked. She is not coming with us. Rake said. But the big boss. I will settle it. When we get there. Carter kept silent even though Ava could see that he was enraged. However, she wasn't concerned about it since she was glad about not meeting their boss. Rake then took a few steps closer to Jax and whispered into his ear. Take her to my house and make sure that she doesn't lose her life before I return home. Yes, boss. Jax mumbled. Rake turned around to face Carter. He then slyly smiled at him. Hand me your key, Rake commanded. Carter hesitated for a second. He then reached into his pocket and took out a key. Rake then showed his hand, and with a frown face, Carter lay the key on his palm. Catch, Rake said as he threw the key over to Jax. What now, sir? Jax asked after he had grabbed the key. Do what I've said. Copy that, sir. Ava felt confused about what was going on. But she wanted no part in whatever was happening, so she kept quiet. Let's go. Jax said to Ava. She knew not to ask questions. Therefore, she followed Jax obediently to the car. After they were seated in the vehicle, Ava worriedly gazed at Rake through the car's windshield. Don't worry, he will be fine, Jax said. How do you know that? Ava mumbled. Rax looked at Rake for a brief moment. He then faintly smiled before starting the car. Hey, you didn't answer me, Ava said. Around here, he's the one everyone has to watch out for. Jax thought as he drove away. You know the boss is not going to be happy about this, right? Carter said. 1 second. Rake was coldly smiling, and the next he had his fist in Carter's face. Blood began dripping out of Carter's nostrils onto the ground. He hurriedly took out a handkerchief from his pocket and gently wiped his nose, and his eyes flicker every time the fabric touched his skin. I think it is broken, Carter thought as his fingertip tenderly touched his nose. Don't forget who you are speaking to, Carter. Because the next time you lose your manner with me, they will be your last words, Rake coldly said before walking away. Carter silently followed Rake to the car. He then opened the back door for Rake and waited for him to get into the vehicle before getting into the driver's seat and slamming the door shut. Sir, Carter said, drive. Rake replied. The command had been given, so Carter immediately started the car and drove off. The remaining Lamborghinis were right behind him. Ava was staring at one of the most beautiful landscapes she had ever seen, and she couldn't bring herself to admire it. Are you okay? Jax asked as he briefly gazed at her before focusing back on the road. No. My whole life has been ruined in just a day, and there is nothing I can do about it. Ava shouted out of frustration. Do you want to talk about it? I am a good listener. Ava wished that her response would have been yes. But she remembered what Rake had said, and she didn't feel like Jax had earned her full trust yet. That is cool. I am here if you ever wish to talk, okay? Jax gently said. Thanks. You are a kind person, Ava replied. She softly smiled at him, and in that instant, Rake awkwardly smirked back at Ava, before turning his face away from her. She is so innocent and naive. It is cute. Maybe that is why the boss is hooked on keeping her away from the pollution of this place, and maybe that is why I feel some kind of attraction towards her. Jax thought. A while later, Jax drove the car into a huge fence. He then stopped the vehicle engine after he had driven the car into the garage. We are here, Jax said. This is your boss's house. Ava said with a shocked expression on her face. Yes. Why? Nothing. Jax got out of the car. And so did Ava. Her face was emotionless the entire time she followed Jax into the immense and extravagant mansion. Rake, you freaking liar. A bookstore owner. What a big fat lie. Look at this place. It fit for a king or a president, not a bookstore owner. Ava angrily thought. She and Jax entered an enormous hall, and even though Ava was furious, her anger quickly melted away as she stared at the lavish interior design of the place. Good day, Sir Jax. How can we be of service to you? The head maid of the mansion said. Floral, this lady is the guest of your master, and he ordered me to tell you all to take excellent care of her. Jax replied, Then, we will follow our master command to the letter. That is good. Ava gently pulled Jax's shirt to get his attention. He then gazed at her with a light smile on his face. I am hungry. Ava mumbled to him. Prepare something for her to eat. Jax said to Floral. Right away. Floral replied. She and the other maids immediately headed toward the kitchen. Jax suddenly held Ava's hand and pulled her along with him. She was still in shock when they reached the dining room. Ava looked down at her hand in his. She then awkwardly stared up at Jax. Ava mumbled. Oh, I am sorry. Jax hastily said. It is all good. Well, you can sit here and wait for your meal, and I am going to use the bathroom. Ava tried to hold in her laugh. But at last she couldn't and started giggling. What is funny? Jax asked with an awkward expression. You got to go. Is that the reason you were in a rush just now? Ava teased. Yep. Stay put and don't leave this room. I will be back. Okay. Jax gave one last hastily look at Ava before running off. Stay put. Ah, Ava mumbled. She gazed around the dining room for a while before taking a seat at the huge dining table. 2 seconds had passed when Ava heard the door ring. She listened attentively to the whisper, but couldn't understand anything because of the distance. However, after a brief while, Ava heard footsteps coming her way, and it wasn't long when she saw a beautiful young woman walking towards her with hate in her eyes. Who the hell are you? The young lady harshly said. I am Ava. Ava said as she stood to her feet with a forced smile on her face. Within a second, the young lady had violently pulled Ava towards her, then bent Ava's hand behind her back and placed a knife to Ava's throat. Roland don't allow strangers into his home, so speak the truth now, or I slice your throat open. The young lady coldly said, Roland. So that is his real name. It hurts finding out this way, Ava thought as tears escaped her eyes. Chapter 10. A good defeat. The study got pretty quiet for minutes. No one had the guts to speak up. Instead, they were all staring at Roland, but he too remained silent. Luther intensely gazed into the face of everyone in the room, and none of them was bold enough to have eye contact with him or speak, and he seemed to have had enough of the silence. Someone give me a damn answer now, or you all lose your tongues. Luther screamed. Sir, your order got given. But young master, Carter did not get to finish his statement when Roland cut him off. But I disobey that order, Roland said. The rage expressed on Luther's face was transparent for all to see, and everyone else was extremely calculative about how to act. Father, Roland tried to speak, but he didn't get to end his statement. Everyone out. I need to have a word with my son, Luther screamed. No bodyguards waited for another second. Instead, they all immediately ran for their precious life. Carter was the last one out the door. He stared at Luther's brutal expression before shutting the study's door. Father, I can explain, Roland said. However, the moment he ended his statement, Luther vigorously punched him in the stomach. Roland took the blow like a real man and kept an emotionless expression on his face, even though he was in pain. Explain what? That you disrespected me in front of my men, Luther screamed. It is my fault. And I will accept whatever punishment you give to me, Roland mumbled. I want the girl. I am not going to let some stranger into my territory without proper initiation. I am sorry, father. But I cannot do that. She is my catch, and I have the right to decide how I handle her. Luther's next punch hit directly at Roland's mouth, and the gold ring on his finger left a deep cut on Roland's lip, causing him to bleed severely from the wound. When did you learn to define me? Luther screamed. I am sorry, father, but handing this girl over to you is not something I can do, Roland boldly said. Luther said nothing for an entire minute, as his blue eyes studied his son's cold expression. I tell you what. Have a duel with me, and if you lose, we follow the tradition of this place by initiating the girl or killing her. If you win, she is yours to handle, and I wouldn't interfere. Luther craftily said, That is not fair. Everything I know, I learned from you. How can I accept such a challenge? Just punish me and allow me to keep the girl. Roland stated, What is the fun in that? Accept the challenge, or I am going to send men over to your house to slaughter her. You are my son, and that is why I am bending the rules for you. Roland doubtfully stared at his father with rage in his gaze. He knew the exact game Luther was playing with him, and that was exactly what he wanted. You old bastard, your pride is your weakness, and it has always been my advantage, Roland thought. You disrespectful ass. How dare you embarrass me in front of my men? I will beat the crap out of you, then kill your pretty little thing to teach you some manner, Luther thought as he coldly gazed at his son. The study had this murderous energy circling in the atmosphere, and the tension in the room was intense. Fine, father. It has been years since we had a father and son activity, Roland said with a sly smile. That is my boy, Luther replied. Roland didn't get a second to stand his ground when Luther's fist slammed into his stomach. He could feel the stitched-up bullet wound reopening, and he held back his scream as the pain ripped through his body. A second punch got thrown at Roland. But this time, he was prepared for it. He instantly blocks his father's fist, then grabbed his wrist, pulled Luther toward him, and banged his kneecap against his father's chin. Luther twisted his wrist out of Roland's hand, then angrily spilled the blood out of his mouth onto the floor. You are really a bad child, hitting your aging father in such a manner. She must be special to you, Luther said with sarcasm in his tone. She is not. It is just that I hate obeying you when it comes to my life, Roland said. True. You have been an excellent employee but a disrespectful son. Yep. My life is not one of those missions you sent me on, so I despise you interfering with my choices. Well, I am your father, and it is my job to see to it you make the right choices in life. Not this time. We will see. Roland could tell that Luther was ready to strike again. But before he could guess his father's next move, Luther had kicked him in the face, leaving a cut under his eye and bruised skin. Ah, not the face, father, Roland said. What? Don't blame me, son. My leg doesn't have eyes, Luther provokingly said. Roland twitched his eye a bit, and the pain he felt enraged him. Cold-blooded bastard, Roland mumbled. You are a son of a cold-blooded bastard, Luther replied with a frown. Roland knew he wasn't going to win if he encountered his father face-to-face, since hand combat was useless. When it came to his father, since Luther already knew most of his moves. However, he planned to give it his all since Ava's life was on the line. Roland sent his first punch, and the moment Luther dodged it, he immediately strikes again with his left fist. But Luther grabbed his hand and pulled Roland towards him. Then choke him. You lost, boy. One wrong move from you and the bone in your neck will snap, The girl has to die now because of your disrespect," Luther coldly said with a pleasing smile on his face. Ava stepped out of the shower after taking a cold bath. She then grabbed a blue fluffy towel and wrapped it around her wet body. After taking a few steps, Ava suddenly let out a loud sneeze. Then sniffed bit, "Who is talking behind my back?" Ava mumbled. She headed into the bedroom and went directly to the closet. When Ava opened it, she saw blankets and towels, but no clothes. Then her eyes rested on the white bathrobe folded neatly on the top shelf. "Good enough," Ava mumbled. She reached for the robe, got a hold of it, and got dressed in it, then headed over to the bed. Ava didn't realize how tired she was until she touched the soft surface of the mattress. The moment her eyes shut, sleep took control of her body. Luther felt satisfied with his victory, until Roland burst into a wild laugh. "What is funny, boy? I have the upper hand here. You are counting death if you try to break free from my grip," Luther coldly said. "Are you sure?" "Look down," Rake calmly stated. "What the hell? Before you think about snapping my neck, this blade will already be stuck deep into your heart. Do you want to test who's faster?" Luther hesitated for a second, with a frown on his face. Then his fingers slowly slipped off Roland's neck while gazing at the knife pinpointed directly at his heart. "You are always perfect at killing with weapons. I know that I will be dead before I can break your neck." Luther mumbled. "Is that defeat I hear?" Roland asked. "Although it angers me to admit it, I am a man of my word, and I like to play fair, so the girl is yours to keep. But one wrong move from her, and I will put her down even if you refuse. Now, how was the mission?" "Well, I have good and bad information to give. Which one do you want to hear first?" Luther scowled at his son. But since he has not heard what Roland had to say, he suppressed his rage. "Combine the shits and give it to me straight," Luther said while striving to keep calm. "I killed Davis, but time wasn't in my favor, so I got out of there immediately. However, I did not destroy the security footage, so Remy now knows it was me who killed his father," Roland stated. Luther clenched his fist. He felt like smashing something and his temper sparked. So without holding back, Luther released all his rage on his son. Roland tried to block a few of his father's hits, but Luther was punching him forcefully and faster, making it difficult for his son to stop all his moves. When Luther's anger finally subsided, and he decided to stop, Roland's face was painted red with his blood, and the numerous cut marks on his skin were brutal. "How could you be so sluggish with such a simple task? You must be fucking kidding me. Don't you know the law of the underworld? An eye for a freaking eye? Things are going to get bloody now," Luther screamed. "I told you that the mission got compromised, and Davis was on to me. But you made me continue with it anyway. Do you know how hard it was for me to figure out Davis' whereabouts after my attempted hit on him?" Roland yelled. The high pitch of his voice caused his body a lot of pain. However, he needed to use his anger as a distraction. "Oh, spare me that bullcrap. Do you know how many times your missions have gotten busted, and you still did a clean job? What made this other task any different? Was it the girl?" Luther yelled. "Of course not. Maybe it is because I had a freaking bullet wound on my side, which I have you to thank for reopening the damn stitches," Roland angrily said, and yet the spark of doubt in his eyes gave him up. "That is not it, boy. What's the real reason you messed up the mission, and who is that girl? I am bleeding from every angle on my body. Give me a break, pat me on the back, and tell me that I did a good job. Will that suck the life out of you?" Luther swallowed down his frustration, and with a cunning smile on his face, he pulled his son into his arm and embraced him. Then pat him on the back. "You did well, boy. But if I find out that you are lying to me, those bruises will be nothing compared to what I will do to you. You know how much I hate dishonesty." Luther whispered into his son's ear. Roland immediately shoved his father off him. He was boiling with anger. However, he pressed down his rage, and with one last cold gaze at Luther, Roland walked out of the study. "Oh my! Young master, should I call Dr. Charles?" Rosie cried when she saw Roland leaping down the stairs. "I am fine, Rosie. I have taken more brutal hits from my father than these," Roland said. He softly smiles at the maid, before walking past her and heading for the door. "Oh, poor young master. Since Madam died, our master has been raising their son with iron fists. Although he puts on a tough face, the pain can still be seen in his eyes." Rosie mumbled as she watched Roland walk out the front door. Roland could taste the saltiness of his blood as he tried to swallow down his saliva, and he felt a stab of anger piercing his heart. "Hand me the key to the Ford pickup," Roland commanded when he met with Carter. "Sir, you are in no condition to drive. Let me carry you home," Carter said. Drunk with rage, Roland forcefully hit his knuckle against Carter's already bruised nose. "Shut up and give me the damn key," he screamed. Carter hurriedly took out a bunch of keys from his pocket, and with trembling hands he dropped them to the ground. "I am sorry," he mumbled as he got down on both his knees to find the right key. However, Roland was the first to spot it, and without waiting for Carter to get it for him, he reached down and picked the key up. "Thanks," Roland mumbled before walking away, leaving Carter alone with blood dripping from his nostril. When he got to the pickup, Roland took a minute or two to breathe. Afterward, he opened the vehicle's door, got in, and slammed it shut. He then started the car's engine and drove off at full speed. Luther watched from the window as the vehicle sped out of the fence. He clutched onto the curtain for a second before letting go and walking away from the window. He then headed over to his desk, picked up his phone, and dialed a number. "Hello, boss." A voice from the other end of the call said, "I need eyes in my son's house. I want to know every single detail of what happens in and out of that mansion." Luther commanded, "You want me to spy on the young master? Call it whatever you want to call it, but I don't trust that bitch he is keeping. And the moment she slips, I am coming for her, and not even Roland can stop me." "Okay, sir. Good. I am glad we are on the same page. Expect a raise in your pay every month if you do a good job." "Thank you, boss." Luther ended the call and absent-mindedly dropped his phone on the desk. "Let's see how long you can lie to me and protect your little pony, son." Roland arrived at his home in the afternoon because he made a stop at the beach to clear his head. He drove the pickup into his garage and packed it. Then he got out of the vehicle and headed into the mansion. "Gosh, I am sorry for my reaction, young master," Floral said the moment she met Roland in the hallway. "It is okay," Roland replied without care. "Young master, dinner has been served at the dining table. Where is the girl?" "Oh, she's in the last bedroom that is at the end of the hall. She has been up there for the entire day." Floral last sentence did not seem right to Roland, but he didn't react immediately. "Did something happen?" Roland calmly asked. "To be truthful, something did happen. I hesitated to tell you because I thought Sir Jax had informed you, and I didn't want to seem nosy," Floral said. "What is it?" "Madame Belle came to your house and put a knife to your guest's neck since she mistook her to be an intruder. But Sir Jax calmed the situation down, and the girl only has a slightly deep cut on her throat." "That is it." Floral seemed shocked by Roland's reply, and he could tell. But he decided not to make an issue out of it. "Yes," Floral said. "Keep the food warm for me." "I will be down soon," Roland said. "Okay, sir." Good. Roland left Floral standing with a disturbed expression on her face. Then headed upstairs. When he got to the last door down the hall, he quickly entered the room without knocking and closed it shut. Roland then walked over to Ava and sat beside her with his eyes fixed on her face. Your sleeping face has always been my favorite image of you. I adore seeing how peaceful your appearance is and the cute way your lip push up. It looks damn kissable right now, Roland mumbled. He lost control of himself for a moment. And in that instant, his desires took over his entire reasoning. With a lustful mind, Roland reached down to kiss Ava. But when their lips were only a breath apart, he stopped. What are you doing, fool? Stealing a kiss from your sleeping ex? Isn't that a bit shameless? Roland frustratingly thought. At that moment, Ava shifted a little on the mattress, and the cover slid down from her upper body, exposing her neck. What the hell? Roland said at a low volume, but his words seemed filled with anger. He could sense a fresh swell of rage rising in him. So to sink it, Roland looked away from the bandage on Ava's neck and took in a deep breath. However, it was of no use. The moment Roland faced Ava again, he felt breathless from all the anger crowding up inside of him. Ava moaned in her sleep. How deep is the cut? Roland thought. Out of curiosity, he touched the end of the bandage and started gently peeling it off. When he was halfway through, Ava suddenly woke up and tried to scream out the pain. But Roland immediately pressed his palm against her lip as he gazed into her watery eyes. Ava's tears were pouring uncontrollably. But Roland could still see the rage in her eyes. He was about to speak when he felt Ava's teeth penetrating his flesh. Fook! Are you crazy, woman? Roland yelled as he pulled his hand away from Ava's mouth. It is you and everyone in this place that are nuts. Ava shouted. She threw the blanket off her and sat up in bed. Her anger had awoken and she was about to express herself when she noticed Roland's bruises. Oh my God, what happened to you? Ava cried. She tenderly rested her hand on Roland's face as she looked into his eyes. Feeling extremely worried, I got beat up. It is nothing. In a few days I will be fine, Roland said. He watched how anxious she was about his injuries, and his lips curve into a soft smile. I didn't mean what I said earlier. I never wanted you to get hurt. Ava cried in her head. I miss having you around and see those sparkling eyes worry about me. I am sorry that you got hurt because of me, Roland thought. They both felt a spark as they stared at each other. And both of them knew where it would lead to if they didn't look away. So what happened to your neck? Roland asked, as he focused his eyes on the vase seated on the bedstand. You should know, Ava sadly mumbled. She touched her neck and realized that the bandage had gotten peeled off halfway. Was this your doing? Ava harshly asked. I wanted to know how badly you got wounded. Roland calmly said. Do you know the pain it caused me just now, and the effort it took to bandage this wound? Stop acting dramatic, and you did a shoddy job. That cut will get infected tonight if you leave it in such a poor condition. By tomorrow, before I can get a doctor, you will already be in intense pain. It is not your problem to worry about. Get off your ass and follow me in the bathroom. Ava pouted at Roland after he had stood to his feet. He stared down at her with a dead serious look on his face. But she did not plan to oblige to his will. No, she mumbled. Come on, Roland said. He grabbed both her hands and pulled her off the bed. Ava then shivered when her feet met the cold tiles. What are you going to do to me? Ava cried as Roland gently pulled her along with him. I am going to eat you. Ha ha ha, Roland teased. Ava remained silent as she kept staring at the expression on Roland's face while he laughed. You are still the same. You've just been masking this side of you from me since we were reunited. But I know the man that I fell in love with, and right now he is the one standing before me, Ava thought. The both of them entered the bathroom. Then Roland led Ava to a stool and made her sit down on it. It is going to hurt a lot, but you can't scream, okay? Roland said. Why can't I? Ava asked. Roland said no word as she waited for an answer from him. And Ava couldn't help herself from feeling a bit mad. Knowing the type of man my father is, he has already planted spies in my home, and I don't need them finding out that you and I are in the same room. Roland thought. He turned away from Ava and headed over to the cabinet, then took out the first aid kit and went back to her. Okay, I am going to start. Don't yell, Roland calmly said. Fine, I won't, Ava mumbled. Roland got a hold of the loose end of the bandage. Then he ripped it off Ava's skin in one go. Ava immediately bit her bottom lip to hold back the pain. But she pressed her teeth too hard into her skin, and that caused her lip to bleed. Are you okay? Did I hurt you? Roland worriedly asked. Number you didn't, Ava whispered in tears. It was clear to Roland that she was lying. But he didn't push the matter any further since he already knew the truth. It took a while, but Roland was able to gently stitch up Ava's wound without her making any noise. But the tear in her eyes was enough to make his heart hurt. You okay? Roland softly asked after wrapping the bandage around her neck. Ava nodded her head. But it was too late for her to take back her action. The pain from her wound was already ripping through her body. Ava tried to scream, but Roland sealed her lips with a kiss. However, that did not go well for him because Ava unintentionally bit his tongue. I am so sorry. It was because of the pain, she cried after their lips have parted. Today is not my favorite day, Roland mumbled as the taste of blood settled on his tongue. At that moment, a knock on the room door drew the both of them attention. Shh, Roland whispered. Young master, are you in here? I went to your room, and no one answered the door, so I thought to check here. Master sent Dr. Charles over to attend to your wounds. Floral's voice echoed from the other side of the door. Ava gazed at Roland, and she could see that he was stressed. However, the reason why he looked worried was what Ava desired to know. After Dr. Charles left, the dining table was awkwardly silent. Roland and Ava were too occupied with their own thoughts to focus on each other. May I be excused? I am full, Ava said a while later. Roland lifted his head and gazed at her calm appearance. He then let out a soft sigh before focusing his attention back on his dinner. You are free to go, Roland mumbled. Tears shimmered in Ava's eyes as she stood there staring at the man that her heart longs for. But now, he was too distant for her to hold on to him. She sniffed back her cry, then turned around and walked away. Ava was so into her thoughts, as she walked towards her room, that she did not hear the footsteps behind her. Is that what you are going to be sleeping in tonight? Ava turned around to see Roland staring at her. She tried to smile at him, but her lips rebelled against her, and a frown was the only expression she could come up with at that moment. It is not like I have an option to choose from. And I decided to settle on this one, Ava said, with a bit of attitude. Come with me, Roland said. He did not wait for a reply and headed into his room. Ava pouted for a second, then she followed Roland into his bedroom and shut the door. Like every other room in the mansion, this room was exquisite. Ava froze as her eyes sparkled with admiration. You like my bedroom? Roland asked. His words drew Ava's attention back to him. She then gave Roland a dirty look, and he frowned. I save your life. The least you can do is to act appreciated, Roland arrogantly said. Ha ha ha. You must have lost a part of your memory if you believe yourself to be my savior, because the last time I checked, you were the reason my life is ruin, Ava harshly stated. Ava, what? You are mad because you know that it is the truth. I never asked you to walk back into my life. I never asked you to pull that trigger. A vein popped out in Rake's neck, and a bit of sadness mixed with intense rage clouded his features. And you know the saddest thing about all of this is their fact that I cannot bring myself to hate you. After everything you have done to me, here I am acting like a complete idiot for a man I don't truly know. Am I not pathetic? Ava said. A dull smile appeared on her face. But her terror overshadowed it. Roland's face remained emotionless, as he turned away from Ava without a word. He then headed to his closet, took out some large black t-shirt, approached her, and handed it over to her. You can wear this for tonight and tomorrow. We can get you some clothes, Roland said. Thank you, Ava mumbled as she choked back her cry. Ava then rushed out of the room with the clothes in her hands. Without waiting for Roland to speak, she didn't stop running until she got to her room. After shutting her door, Ava ran towards her bed, climbed on it, and then screamed into her pillow. It took Ava a while for her to calm down. And once she did, she got out of bed and charged into Roland's shirt. Then she crawled back into bed and cried herself to sleep. Roland stood still for a second, as he tried to get ripped off his sadness and restrain his emotions. After a while had passed, he had into the shower and took a cold bath. He then returned to his room and got changed. Come out, Roland coldly said as he stared at the window. It wasn't long when a man entered the bedroom through the window. How much of the conversation did you hear, Jax? Roland asked. If I say that I haven't heard a word you guys spoke, then I am a liar. Every word. But it was not my intention to listening in on you guys, Jax replied. Roland frowned as he coldly stared directly into Jax's eyes with anger in his. Then, what was your intention? Roland asked. Ava. That is her name, right? She said she wanted to be alone, so I left the house and came on your balcony to wait for you. Jax replied. So you climbed 2-story simply because she told you that she wanted to be alone. Jax became silent. He too couldn't understand why he would do such a thing, but he knew that he had to make up an answer or else Roland would become suspicious. And the last thing he wanted was for Roland to become suspicious of him. I didn't do it for her. I did it for you, Jax hastily said. Right, Roland mumbled. Jax gently tapped his boot on the tile as he awkwardly looked around the room. What is it? Roland asked. You and her. Jax mumbled. There is nothing between us. Sure. Lady Belle is dangerous. You better kept an eye out for her. She put a knife at Ava's neck today. I helped calm the situation down, but I am sure that it is not the last time she will pull such an act. Roland took a seat on his bed and rested his head on his palm. I needed you to be my eye. Monitor everything that Belle does and report back to me, Roland stated. Yes, boss, Jax said. He waited for a word from Roland, and when he got none, Jax turned around to leave. Oh, and also remember this. Ava is not someone for you to mess around with. Clear, Roland coldly said. Crystal, Jax replied before leaving through the window. Roland lied back on his bed and stared directly at the ceiling. Maybe bring her here was a terrible choice. But I am glad for now, Rami would get a chance to take her life. But is Rami really the danger I should be watching out for? Roland mumbled to him. Ava rolled over in bed as the loud knock on her room door woke her from her sleep. Bang! Bang! Ava angrily sat up in bed and turned her head to stare at the door. What do you want? Ava screamed. Floral's face expressed intense anger when she heard the roughness in Ava's tone. But she didn't allow her rage to consume her. My young master requested your presence in the dining room. Floral calmly called out. What for? Ava yelled. She got out of bed and approached the mirror, then intensely stared at her reflection. How rude. What does she think she is, the madam of this house? Ha, Floral mumbled. She clutched her fist and forced herself to keep calm. You are summoned to have dinner with him, Floral said. Selena placed her finger under her eye and stretched it open. Then she did the same to the other one. She sounds so old school. And why are my eyes so puffy, and these dark circles look terrible around them? Ava thought. She then walked away from the dress and headed to the bed. Got a hold of her robe and wore it over Roland's shirt. Miss, did you hear what I had said? Floral asked. The door suddenly opened and Ava walked out, then shut it close. I did, she stated while calmly smiling at Floral. The maid had no choice, so she returned a forced smile. What a stiff smile, Ava thought as she walked past Floral. A few minutes later, when Ava walked into the dining room, she saw that Roland had already started breakfast without her. Rake would never start breakfast without me because he would be too restless about the fact that I haven't eaten yet. But I guess Rake is dead, and this is Roland, Ava thought as she took a seat at the end of the table. Roland lifted his head and gazed at Ava, but she pretended to be focused on her food to avoid any awkwardness between them, or getting a hurt remark from him. Breakfast was awfully silent, and Ava was glad when it finally came to an end. Roland got up from his seat and approached Ava. Then he stopped right next to the chair. Come to my room 5 minutes from now. Make sure that no one sees you, Roland commanded in a low tone. Then he walked. Why is he acting like a criminal in his own house? Ava mumbled. She kept her eyes on the wall clock. And once 4 minutes had passed, Ava stood up to her feet and went upstairs. Roland's attention got drawn to his door when it suddenly opened. Ava rushed in and shut the door. Then she walked up to Roland with a mad expression on her face. I want to go home. Your house feels like a prison. I think it is better to face my boss son than to stay here with you, Ava harshly said. You don't know what you are talking about. Now take this. Go shower and change into it, Roland replied. Fine. But I haven't changed my mind about going home. Sure. Ava scowled at Roland's reply. She then grabbed the clothes from his hands. What is this? Ava asked. That is the only coat that I have in my closet that can fit you, and the t-shirt also. I have never worn them, so no one will know that they are mine, Roland replied. Can you just order clothes for me online? Like a normal person? I am not a normal person. So purchasing something on the internet and having someone deliver it to my address could be an extremely dangerous move. My enemies could use that to their advantage. Plus, I don't like strangers entering my home. Ava found herself speechless for a moment. It took a while for her to process what Roland had just told her. But at last, she came up with the perfect comeback. Strangers. So that means the lady who almost slaughtered me yesterday is someone that you know. What is the relationship between you two? Ava slyly asked. She's a nobody to me now. Go get change, Roland casually replied. What a coincidence. She and I fall into the same category in your book. We are both nobodies to you, but you know that is a lie, right? Stop poking in things that could get you killed. The less you know about this side of my life, the safer you will be. I don't feel safe either way. That is because you are not. So learn to stick by me and listen closely to what I tell you. Now go get change. Fine. Ava hugged the clothes to her chest and turned around to leave the room. "Where do you think you are going?" Roland asked as he took his shirt off his body. "To my room," Ava answered. "You can do it here. I already had my shower this morning, so you can use my bathroom." Ava was ready to instantly object to Roland's offer. But his warning was still fresh in her mind, which made her realize that she couldn't refuse. "Fine," Ava mumbled. She turned around to head to the bathroom. When she caught a glance at Roland's shirtless body, "You didn't tell me how you sustained all these injuries," Ava mumbled as she approached Roland. "I did," Roland replied. Ava stopped walking when she got closer to Roland, and without thinking, she gently rested her hand against his skin. "You didn't. All you said was that you got whop, but you never told who did it," Ava stated as her finger traced the dark bruise on his side. "Does it matter?" Roland replied. Ava lifted her head to stare at him, and at that moment their eyes met. "You should get change," Roland softly said. "Yep," Ava hastily replied. She immediately removed her hand from Roland's body before running into the bathroom with a red face. "Ha, silly," Roland mumbled. He got hold of dark jeans from his closet and changed into them, and then took a gray shirt and wore it. Afterward, Roland hastily unlocked another side of his closet. At that moment, Ava came out wearing the brown coat he gave her and the black t-shirt underneath it. "How many enemies do you have for you to possess such a huge weapon collection?" Ava asked as she worriedly stared into the closest. "My foes are endless and so are my weapons." "Well, this entire house is equipped with them. A man should always be prepared for battle," Roland replied as he placed a gun into the back of his jeans. He then threw his coat over it before turning around to face Ava. "Are you ready?" Roland asked while taking his keys and phone off the table. "I think so," Ava mumbled. "Great. Let's go." A few minutes later, Ava and Roland arrived at Lux Mall. Roland parked his vehicle in the parking lot. Then he and Ava got out of the car and headed into the mall. Ava's eyes sparkled as she stared around the shopping mall with adorable in her eyes. Everything seemed so fancy and expensive. She looked at Roland to see his reaction, but he seemed distracted. Roland kept looking back as they walked ahead. "What is it?" Ava asked. "We are being followed by hitmen," Roland replied.